What is the number one civil rights issue of the day? It is impossible to talk about the criminal justice system without talking about education. Prison don't do nothing but make you a worse person. You want to change, you got to do it by yourself. Even if I didn't make it down the poll, the statement would still be made. It's a movement, and it's not going to stop. Most teenagers get incarcerated, all because of your mouth. It's prison or death. Never lose faith. Keep the faith. We gonna keep demanding justice. A message to Black America. Don't expect nobody to open the door for you. Can't wait for the leaders to make it better. We have to make it better.
That was the trailer from HBO's Emmy-nominated one-woman film, Notes from the Field, which explores racial inequality in America and the flawed justice system. The actress who portrays all 19 real-life characters in the film, Pulitzer Prize-nominated playwright and activist Anna Deavere Smith, joins us now. Today, HBO will be rebroadcasting her Emmy-nominated and critically acclaimed one-woman film, and it is also now available on demand. It is such a pleasure to have you on the show, and such a terrible time for America. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are, given all the messages that you've worked so hard to really deliver to your audience from your soul about the plight of Black America and others. What your thoughts are right now about the state of things?
Well, a lot of things, but I know I don't have all the time in the world, so I want to say two things. And one is that this has a long history. The death of George Floyd, the brutal beating, has a long history. Throughout the 20th century, the NAACP and many other Black activist organizations fought to have anti-lynching legislation written into law. It never happened. It never happened throughout the entire century. And finally, about 15 years ago, Senator Landrieu led an apology on the Senate floor that never happened. So this is very deep. The brutality against people of color is very deep, and in fact goes back to the brutality against the Native Americans in this country. The other thing that I want to talk about is the theater of last night. I think that the president has a great interest in Abraham Lincoln. As you know, he held a press conference at the Lincoln Memorial. St. John's is the church that Abraham Lincoln went to. Pew 11 was his pew. And when you go to St. John's Episcopal Church, there's a plaque at Pew 11 that says that Abraham Lincoln walked across from the White House by himself every night during the Civil War and sat in the back at that pew and prayed. Those are the two things I want to bring forward.
Gene Robinson, jump in.
And as you look at the protests, I'm wondering if you're struck as I am by the nationwide scope of the protests that we've seen in the wake of the killing of George Floyd. All 50 states, more than 100 cities, very diverse crowds. What do you take away from that?
Well, first of all, I think the word diverse is really important. You know, in my work, I go out and I talk to hundreds of people to write notes from the field. I talked to over 250 people to write Twilight, my play about the Los Angeles riots in 1992. I talked to over 300 people. So if we were to go out into the crowd and ask people why they were there, they'd have a whole bunch of reasons. In Los Angeles, some people said it was a riot. Some people said it was an uprising. Some people said that it was a revolution. So that's number one, is that the diversity is not news, and people's motivations are not the same. We tend to try to simplify that. I do think, as you say, the national scope of this is remarkable. You tell me, has anything like this happened since the murder of Martin Luther King?
Not that I can think of. I mean, that's the antecedent that I come back to, and just in terms of how geographically widespread the protests have been, and how numerous the protesters, and how spontaneous it all was. That's what I come back to. This is different. Those were bigger riots, but not as many. I mean, not as many demonstrations as we're seeing now.
Hey, Anna, it's Willie Geist. I want to ask you about bottling this moment, because you've looked so carefully and you've written plays, Pulitzer Prize nominated plays about these moments through history. In 1992, you mentioned the LA riots. So how do we take what we're seeing in the streets right now? How do we take the energy of these peaceful protests and turn it into change so that this moment doesn't pass, so that's not just a chapter in the book and we turn the page and go back to focusing on coronavirus, which obviously deserves a lot of our focus. But how do you make something out of all this energy we're seeing?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. You know, the language has changed. I think we're back in 1992, we didn't hear as much about trauma. We didn't hear that word very much. We didn't hear words like generational trauma. We didn't hear the word pain as much as we hear it now. But we forget. I see these as flashes of interest in race in America, and it goes away. To me, the most important thing right now is I think there must be a secret handshake between the criminal justice system and the police department, because we just can't get at it. We can't shake that open. We can't take these people. We can't get them in jail. We can't convict them. And I think that's maybe what's so frustrating to people, is that there's something there and we don't have privy to what it is. So that's number one. Number two, you know, I'm always going to make a call out for education and culture. Bishop Buddy yesterday was talking about the soul of the country being in turmoil, talking about this as a moral crisis. Well, those of us who are in the humanities and those of us who are in the arts, we kind of stand around the outside and try to knock on the door of the Republic to cause the people on the inside who know what that secret handshake is to do something about it. And then, you know, this moment, both in terms of coronavirus and the disproportionality between people of color who are dying and those who have advantages, you know, this is a moment where we should be looking at inequality and from many points of view, right? From many points of view. In medicine right now, we don't hear so much about it because people are on the front lines. But I would say for the past 20 years in medicine, there's been a discussion about the social causes of some of the diseases that poor people tend to suffer from. So I think from doctors to spoken word artists, there's something to do.
All right, Anna Deavere Smith, thank you so much. Her Emmy-nominated one-woman film, Notes from the Field, replays tonight on HBO.
We weren't nominated for an Emmy. We were nominated for a Critics' Choice Award. So thank you for giving us higher praise than we actually garnered.
No problem at all. Time now really quickly for final thoughts. Jonathan Lemire, you're looking at Joe Biden today?
That's right. We saw yesterday, Mika, the split screen. President Trump standing in front of a church, Joe Biden actually in a church taking a knee, listening to community leaders. The former vice president is going to deliver a major speech this morning from Philadelphia, in which he is going to say, they just sent remarks, I promise you, I won't traffic in fear or division. I won't fan the flames of hate, as he tries to draw, again, a stark contrast from what we're seeing from the White House.
That does it for us this morning. Stephanie Ruhle picks up the coverage right now.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.